Now, before I get into it, let me quickly say two things. First, yes, there will be some spoilers for Captain Marvel in this video, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want anything ruined, it might be a good time to click away and come back later. Second, to answer the question I've been getting from several people, no, I'm certainly not abandoning Star Wars content in favor of Marvel. Quite the contrary, really. I have a lot of Star Wars videos planned and in the works that'll be coming out in the coming days and weeks, but with Avengers Endgame so close, and with Star Wars in a bit of a lull until after Celebration next month, it just feels like the perfect time to talk some Marvel. And what I'd like to discuss in this video is what Captain Marvel's role in Endgame should be, and also to present a theory as to what might actually happen to her in that movie. Because, as I see it, they, meaning Marvel Studios, are really in a tough position with this character and what to do with her in this movie. Because on the one hand, they've said they want to make her essentially the future face of the MCU, the one who kind of fills in for the impending absence of characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. So in other words, you really do want her to shine in this movie in some respect. You want people to not only start to understand and like the character, but you also want to establish her as someone who could fill the shoes of those characters I just mentioned, both in terms of power level, and Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios, has said that she is the most powerful superhero we've seen yet, and also in terms of popularity and presence of character on screen, if you will. Which, to be honest, will be a very difficult, if not impossible task for any actor or character to pull off, considering those three, again, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, have been the very foundation, not to mention the heart and soul, of the franchise for over a decade now. Which is, of course, kind of the problem with pushing Captain Marvel too much in Endgame. It really should be the culmination of those characters' journeys, not to mention all the other characters we've watched and grown to love over these past 10 years. Not a highlight reel for a brand new character and her chance to save the day, when really most fans likely just want to see that done by the characters who have been here all along. So what do you do with her character then? How do you give Captain Marvel a nice little push in this movie, yet not steal the spotlight from the others? How do you make her the new face of the MCU without ruining the swan song of those other characters we've been following all this time? Because doing that likely isn't going to endear her to anyone. Well, one thing to keep in mind, and this is where we get into spoiler territory, is that Captain Marvel's power comes from an Infinity Stone, or the Space Stone to be exact. We of course see this in her movie when the ship's engine blows up right in her face and she absorbs all that energy. And she's of course not the only character we know of who has been given powers by one of the stones. Both Scarlet Witch and Vision, not to mention the late Quicksilver, were given their powers by the Mind Stone. And we saw in Infinity War that since she was created by it, that Wanda, or Scarlet Witch, had the power to then destroy the stone which had given her those powers. And potentially, I suppose, the power to destroy some or all of the other stones as well, though who knows for sure. Which then means, in theory at least, Captain Marvel should be able to destroy the Space Stone, which is where she got her powers from. Though it obviously won't be that simple, since when Scarlet Witch destroyed the Mind Stone, and she was successful, remember, Thanos just turned back time and changed events, she had the benefit of the one possessing it, that being Vision, just willingly sitting there and letting her do it. And that obviously won't be the case with Captain Marvel having to destroy the Space Stone in the possession of Thanos. Still, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up kind of being the game plan for the Avengers, to send Captain Marvel off against Thanos to either distract him while they're doing something else, or in the hopes of actually destroying the Space Stone. Either way, it's a good way to bring people who missed Captain Marvel up to speed on where exactly she gets her powers from. Hell, it could also be that Captain Marvel doesn't initially see the need of the Avengers and then goes off to face Thanos alone. One way or another, I do think Captain Marvel will go toe-to-toe with Thanos in this movie. That actually feels like a given. I also think that she'll fare very well against him at first. Again, we know they have big plans for this character in the future, and they really want to establish her and begin to further showcase her power. However, my theory here is just when we think Captain Marvel is about to defeat him or maybe destroy the Space Stone, that's when Thanos will say something to the effect that he recognizes her power. He'll then make a fist with his hand wearing the gauntlet, the Space Stone will light up, and he'll either completely depower her with it, or he'll potentially take control of her, or maybe even seemingly kill her. And such a scenario could potentially do a lot of different things. First, again, it does let her show off a little bit, but she ultimately gets defeated, which means it'll still be up to our original Avengers in the end. Though who knows, perhaps the fight will work as a distraction to help the other Avengers accomplish something, or could even ultimately give the Avengers yet another obstacle to deal with if Thanos does take control of her and sends her after the others. Either way, it could be a very humbling moment for her character going forward, especially if she does get depowered. even though it's a trope we've seen the MCU use before, mainly with Thor having his powers taken away from him in his first movie, and then Iron Man losing his suit in his third movie. Nevertheless, such an experience could help us, the audience, connect with her better both in this movie and in future movies down the road. And quite honestly here, I think this is pretty much the best way to deal with her character in this movie, and I do hope I'm at least on the right track with this theory, because you do want her to have some type of arc or character progression here, one that sets the table for her story down the road, yet you also don't want her to come in and steal all the thunder, no pun intended, from characters like Thor and the others we've been following for all these years. And when you really think about it, this movie has to be a lot of different things to a lot of different characters. For many, it truly will be their endgame or their final hour, while for others it will be the beginning of something completely new and set the stage for future movies in the MCU. And it'll be very interesting to see how they balance those two. However, I have confidence in Kevin Feige, the Russo brothers, and everyone else at Marvel Studios that they'll get the job done. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what role you think Captain Marvel will play in Endgame. Do you think I'm on the right track here and she'll face Thanos only to be depowered by him, or will she be used some other way? Either way, let me know in the comments below and let's talk some Marvel. And until next time, thanks for watching.